Even on the lowliest sound reinforcement system, there's always a ton of cables, and somewhere along the line, this is what one or more of them is going to produce. Yep, noise. Be it a hum, a hiss or a crackle, noise and sound reinforcement are always potential partners on stage. Noise can be drastically reduced by maintaining good gain structure throughout the signal path. Here are several other good practices and things to avoid. Avoid having signal cable lying alongside AC power cables. Turn off open channels on your mixer or unnecessary auxiliary routings. Don't skimp on cabling. Use balanced cable whenever possible, and put those antique cables with a cracked insulation and permanent kinks in the museum where they belong. Intermittent crackles are almost certainly bad cables or bad connectors. Be systematic. Isolate the culprit, then replace or fix the lead. A low-frequency hum is most often caused by a ground loop. Don't automatically disconnect the earth on equipment. Be systematic. Try and isolate the source of the problem, move equipment around, and then use ground lifts. Another common source of AC noise or hum is lighting. Dimmers often add a good bit of noise back into the AC line. If your system is portable, you should be prepared to move to a different outlet by carrying a heavy-duty extension cord. This will usually clear up the problem. Distortion through a sound reinforcement system is one of the most unpleasant sounds around. Do everything you can to avoid putting your audience or yourself through this torture. Distortion can be caused by many things. First, isolate the problem. Is it being caused by one channel? Lower all of the faders and then raise each of them in turn. Or is it a global problem? If sound from one channel is distorted, check your input gain and adjust it by reducing the gain or applying a pad. If it's a mic channel, try using another channel. If the mic has batteries, make sure they're good and fresh. If it's still distorted, try another mic cable, then another mic. Check you're not overloading the mixer with excessive EQ. If you have a device connected to the channel's insert I/O, disconnect it. Check if too much signal is going into or coming back from an aux bus. Finally, if you can't cure it, plug the mic or instrument into another channel. If distortion seems to be a global problem, systematically go through the signal path to make sure the gain structure is good, i.e. operate the mixer at higher output levels while attenuating the signal at the power amplifier. Make sure the amp is not clipping or overloading. Check all of your cables and connections. Check your speakers. Perhaps your system is maxed out and it's time to add a subwoofer to take some of the load off the main speakers. Possibly you may have blown a speaker. A great thing about the sound system is that you can easily troubleshoot and correct these problems, as you can unplug and repatch inputs and other connections until you find the problem. Just remember to follow the signal logically through the system, and then you'll easily be able to isolate the culprit. Staying focused and being systematic with your approach will soon fix the problem. Feedback is not always undesirable. Where would any self-respecting lead guitarist be without it? But seriously, in a sound reinforcement system, feedback caused by a mic or pickup on an acoustic guitar, ow! This sound even outpaces distortion in terms of being torture to listen to. So, what is it? How do you get rid of it? And how can you avoid it happening again? Put simply, feedback is the harsh, piercing, ringing sound that occurs when a loop is created through the microphone or pickup picking up its own sound coming out of loudspeakers, and so feeding back into the system in a never-ending cycle. The first thing to avoid then is pointing a live mic directly at your loudspeakers. In fact, avoid placing mics anywhere in front of your main speakers at all if you can. Feedback staple diet is volume. Turn the sound down and you'll cut off its food supply. While effective and certainly essential if you're in the middle of a performance, this is only a temporary fix. So let's look at ways that you can reduce the likelihood of it happening in the first place. Feedback often starts as a gentle ring around a certain pitch before intensifying and turning into a full-blown whistle. You can help reduce it by identifying the pitch of the ring and then reduce that particular frequency using a graphic or parametric EQ. This is also called notching it out. This will buy you a bit more level, but you can be sure that the ring will reoccur at another frequency, and when you correct it, another, and so on as you try to increase the output. Your sound system has now reached what's called maximum acoustic gain, which simply means that the whole system, performers, electronics and the room as they are set up currently, cannot get any louder. Measures you will want to look at are the positioning of the mics and the speakers, especially monitor speakers on stage. Experiment with different mics that use different polar patterns and try and make sure that performers are close to their mics. Don't forget, they're part of the sound system too. There are also so-named feedback eliminators on the market that you might want to investigate if feedback is a persistent problem and your budget can accommodate some additional expense. But even these devices can only help somewhat, and they do add some artifacts or colour the sound. Silence is very far from golden if you're in the middle of a show. If your sound reinforcement system fails completely, it's most likely a major power issue, such as an overloaded and/or blown fuse in your amplifiers. Other major components can fail, of course, such as your mixer or the main cables. If your main amp fails and you have a decent monitor system, you may need to face the monitors out towards your audience and at least keep the show limping along. But let's hope that by watching this DVD, you will have all but avoided most practices that could deal you this most unwelcome hand. There are times when you might need to shut the system down yourself. Aside from real calamities like fire or earthquakes, rain at an outdoor show is probably your most likely enemy. Electricity and water are not good companions, nor are moisture and drivers in a loudspeaker enclosure. If drivers ever do get wet, they need to be thoroughly dried out and checked out before being used again. Here is a short list of good habits to get into, not only to keep your sound as good as it can be, but also to keep your sanity. Use balanced cable whenever possible. Coil cables properly. Don't add stress or kinks. Label and store items for easy identification. Keep your stage free of clutter. Use cable ties. Use cable the right length, not way longer than you need. Use protective cases and covers. Keep plenty of spares, fuses, cables, amps. Trash bags can be great to cover gear in an emergency if you're outside. Turn your amps on last and off first to avoid damaging your loudspeakers. Finally, here is a list of support equipment you should always keep handy if you're running a sound reinforcement system. A CD player for testing your system. A Maglite flashlight. A Sharpie. Connectors, adapters, signal ground lifters. Fuses for everything that has a fuse, and your guitar player's amplifier too. A soldering iron and solder. 3 kinds of tape: gaffer, or at least duct tape, electrical, board tape. A basic toolkit, headphones, batteries for all the gear that uses them. So how does it feel to be a fully trained sound engineer then? No, don't worry. Live sound is a bit like gardening. It's a constant learning and growing process. No one, even the top professionals, really knows everything. We hope that this program has given you some basic skills that you can now go out and apply in real life. But even these skills can twist and turn as new technologies come onto the market. So please check in at Yamaha.com, where you can get the latest news on subjects discussed in this DVD, along with links to related websites. Thanks for watching, and good luck.